All right, welcome to another episode of GillyTalks. I am your host, Gilly, and yes, it has been a long time coming for this podcast to get started again. I apologize for the delay, but let's be honest, life takes over sometimes and things don't work out the way we plan them to work out. But I am happy to be back, and I'm hoping that you are happy to have me back, enjoying listening to this podcast again. And let's jump right into this. My guest on the podcast today is a longtime friend. We have known each other for quite a few years now, grew up in the same region of our country, not the same city, different sides of the water, and so we knew each other through different connection points, different people, different circles of friends, but also through our background of our faith and the churches that we attended. Grew up at the same camp in Ontario. So many different areas in our life have allowed us to cross paths, and we've worked together in different areas. We do similar things now for a living, and it's a privilege for me to call him a friend. And it's a privilege anytime I get a chance to speak with him. Always enjoy our conversations, always leave challenged, always leave encouraged. And we don't always agree on everything,
No, we don't.
but that is the part that I appreciate about our guests tonight, because we can have a good conversation, end that conversation, and still be friends. And that's what I enjoy about him. And so I want to introduce you tonight to our guest. He goes by the name of Chris Chase, and so excited to have him here. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's long-time listener, first-time podcast guest on GillyTalks.
Well, I'm happy you're here. This has been, truthfully, when I say long time coming for me to restart the podcast, it's actually been a long time coming for us to
Yeah,
do a podcast together. We did one when you temporarily had a podcast.
temporarily. Yeah, it was a comet. It burned brightly in the air and then
Yes.
just kind of shattered its way to the ground. But it was a lot of fun to do while I had it, though.
Yeah, so we talked back then, and since I've started this one, and just if you are new to Gilly Talks, the reality of, or the reason why I started this podcast was just to be able to tell stories. I believe in the power of stories, and the impact they can have on people's lives. And some of the stories that I've been able to have shared on this podcast have been impacting to people, and some of the feedback I've received have been pretty incredible. And so I'm excited to have Chris on the show. Chris, to have you here to be able to share something that is impacting to us,
Mhm.
and something meaningful to us that took place just yesterday in the news, and everybody who's listening. If you haven't heard, I'm assuming you live under a rock,
Facts.
and just have stayed away from any type of news. But as we know from yesterday, in our world, we lost a basketball icon, and beyond that, and we'll talk about that tonight. Kobe Bryant, former LA Lakers, passed away in a helicopter accident, along with 8 other people, including his 13-year-old daughter, and it was something that shook everybody to the core, not just basketball fans, not just people who follow sports, but people just hearing a story.
Mhm.
And I, for me, it was something I told my wife. I said, this has impacted me more than any other death that I had heard of in the sports world. I've heard of
Yeah,
people dying, but this one was something different. But before we jump into Kobe, I want to talk about just basketball and your love for it, and it'll kind of bring us to that point. And so, Chris,
sure.
I know that you are a diehard Lakers fan. I know there's some you bleed Toronto Raptors as
Do
well,
yeah,
especially because they put you into a video montage, at the end of last year
yeah, baby.
in case you don't know, the Raptors were NBA
NBA
champions,
champs.
right? And so, but you grew up a Laker fan.
Yeah,
So tell me, where did your love for basketball and specifically Lakers start and come from?
yeah. The easiest way to describe it would be basketball was one of those things that drew my dad and I together. My dad and I need to clarify. My dad and I now we're best buddies. We haven't talked yet because I know that once I call my dad, it's going to be an emotional wreck between the both of us. And so we've talked a little bit via text, but we haven't done the phone conversation yet, just because of the news that we'll talk about in a little bit. But that was one of the things that brought us together. My dad used to collect end of season statistic magazines that would have all the stats of every team, every player, every preseason game, every regular season game, playoffs, finals, and then the projected draft picks, high school lists. And he would have, he had the year before Jordan got drafted, the 83, 84 statistics, Jordan's rookie year, and so on and so forth. And I would just kind of, as a kid, I remember finding them and just being enamored by the numbers and being enamored by the names. And one of the names that was huge in our home was Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson was larger than life in our home, and he played for the Los Angeles Lakers along with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kurt Rambis, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, Pat Riley with the slick back hair and the Armani suits, and that was a big deal for me. Like growing up in Montreal, both of us we are Quebecers. Hockey was king, right? And I'm sure that you have a variety of listeners who have different favorite hockey teams. The hockey team that we grew up with was the Montreal Canadiens, and that kind of like took over the news. That was everywhere. And yet there was moments where a college basketball game would be on TV, and my dad and I, we would watch the Michigan Wolverines or Seton Hall, or it was always a Big East team, Georgetown University with John Thompson, Alonzo Mourning, and things like that. And just the love of basketball was just something that was always there. And then in grade 5, started learning how to play. There was a hoop outside of our school. There was basketball teams that you can join, and it was just a natural fit. I remember I really fell in love with basketball in 1991. It was the NBA finals were the Lakers versus the Bulls, and that was sort of the changing of the guard. Magic Johnson was still in his prime, but he was not as good as Michael Jordan. Yeah. And I remember being heartbroken because everybody was wearing championship finals hats and everything. And Michael had finally crossed them. I mean, mind you, he'd only really been in the league for 6 years, but he'd finally crossed the mountain. Yeah. And I remember just being heartbroken, like, oh my gosh, the Lakers lost, but they're going to win again. And then August 91 happens, and then Magic Johnson says he has HIV. And then you're like, and I remember the first time where basketball was on the front page of the Montreal Gazette. Yeah. And all these different stories since then have just been all connected to basketball. Yeah. I know and I like and I understand and I appreciate hockey. I have an appreciation for football outside of the concussion stuff. Baseball is fun. Right? But there's just something about the beautiful game of basketball and just the poetry of the floor, the natural squeaking of a pair of sneakers on proper basketball flooring, the fact that you can play basketball by yourself. Yeah. It's the one game, like you can't play football by yourself. It's impossible. Yeah. Baseball is really, if you hit the ball, you got to walk over there and grab it. Yeah, sure. You can hit a puck at a net, but there's something about I'm gonna challenge myself on a 3-pointer. I'm gonna challenge myself on free throws. I'm gonna challenge myself on a step back. I'm gonna challenge myself on a fadeaway. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna just do drills and practice my dribbling, and then being able then to pull it off in a game, whether it's a game of American, a game of 3-on-3, a game of 1-on-1. And that's one of the ways that you and I became friends outside of our love for God, and just we both have similar humor. Was hoops. You were always taller and longer, and you said handles, like it was like I was a bruiser. I was like, give me a rebound, give me an outlet, I can drive on you. But you just had you had a finesse to your game. It was so much fun to be able to play with you and play against you. It was just so much fun to be able. Ugly monkeys. It's so much fun to be able to do together. And basketball, playing basketball in high school, playing basketball in Bible college. It's just been always, and then watching it obviously and passing on to my kids. And from the Lakers, still Laker fan, but then the Raptors over the last 6 years living in the GTA. I don't live in Toronto, I live in the GTA. Ball is life, as they would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Lakers fan, obviously they had some great moments,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been alive for some of those great moments. You know, you mentioned hockey, and I'm a hockey fan as well, and I love the Montreal Canadiens, and I wish they would love me too by showing some more winning. Um, but um, but I'd like to tell my Toronto Maple Leaf friends that I've been alive for championships.
Facts.
You know, and I remember '93.
93, yeah.
I remember some of the championships, but which NBA championship? You know, I know the Raptors one is huge, but when it comes to the Lakers, which
Okay.
championship stands out the most to you as, I remember when they won that one?
Um, the three-peat is foggy to me.
Yeah.
Like the three-peat was foggy to me. I was just getting out. It was while I was in college in Montreal and then going into Bible college. I remember those three. I remember didn't have as much access to games as I do now. There was no such thing as League Pass. You know, like they weren't written necessarily always on TSN. The finals were, so you had to kind of read stuff like ad hoc. The one that really stands out to me of the five that I've been the five that I've been alive for, I can kind of remember a little bit of the ones against the Pistons in '88 and '89, or '87 and '88. Sorry, but it's the last one against Boston.
Mm.
7 games against a rival that has embarrassed you.
Mm-hmm.
That in 2008, man, I remember I was talking about this with Rebecca, my wife, last night in the midst of kind of like just the calamity of emotions I was going through. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed after the Lakers lost by 32 or 36 points in Game 6 in 2008, and my wife literally saying to me, "You need to go downstairs. I cannot deal with you anymore." As I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, just kind of just like in a sullen state, "You need to leave the room. You
Yeah.
need to go." So when they get the chance to go against them in 2010, and it's a tight series, Kendrick Perkins gets injured in Game 6, and then Game 7 is the worst basketball game I have ever seen. It's old school. Jordan rules, Jordan versus the Bulls. Jordan versus the Pistons. Sorry, basketball. Just Miami Heat versus New York Knicks, 1995 slobber knocker basketball. And Kobe is playing the worst game I've ever seen. And you're kind of going, he's going to shoot us in the foot. And just everything starts clicking around. It's a 3-pointer. And Kobe is standing on the scorer's table, arms extended, shooting the 5 up. And it's like, and I remember just the next day, I remember walking to Chapters from my house, Laker jersey on, honks from different cars, and just feeling like this is the greatest day of my life. I haven't done anything, but this is the greatest day of my life. And so that would be the last one, 2010. That's the championship that like stands out to me because it was one more than Shaq. It put him one away from Jordan, and I know your respect for Jordan. You're a North Carolina guy, I know that, but it put him one away from Jordan. It at the time it put him ahead of Tim Duncan, who was pretty well his ring rival, the Spurs and the Lakers. So that's it. 2010.
That's good. Yeah, it's fun to be able to remember those moments and to think to yourself, oh man, I remember how good that felt. Like I remember I was traveling somewhere and could not get the finals of Villanova versus North Carolina. North Carolina comes down, hits a huge shot, and then Villanova comes back and wins it. Like I remember the moment of like, ugh, I'm about to go watch the Masters practice round, and I hate life right now because and then there's that other side of like, yes, they won the year after, like they come back and it's just that thrill of victory, agony of
defeat. Yeah,
incredible thing. So no, that's cool. And that series was a fantastic series between the Lakers and them, and it was incredible. Before we get into our main topic today, favorite player and why?
Like current
favorite player currently to watch.
Oh man, there's so many.
Yeah.
Like, because the NBA, like we've been alive and watched basketball enough to see basketball change.
Yes.
Right. Like, so we're little kids in the 80s and just kind of like Larry and Magic, they're kind of like they're larger than life, but we don't really understand it. And then we're able to watch like the rise and the reign of Michael Jordan, where people are like, he's retired for 2 years. Thank the Lord, right? Like his other teams are. And then we're able to see this weird sort of like there's no more Jordan, and then the emergence of Allen Iverson, Kobe, Shaq, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, and then into this incarnation of LeBron and Bosh and Wade and Stoudemire and all these. Stoudemire doesn't fit in that category. Melo, let's say. And then you have these young guys now. I would be remiss if I didn't say a guy like Kawhi Leonard, even though to my son, he has betrayed us and we should never, ever, ever cheer for him. And he's on the Clippers, which is the rival team to the team I grew up cheering for. But just the way he carries himself on the court.
Yeah.
He just has a cool sense about him. Trae Young is another guy. I mean, he puts up great stats, even though his team sucks in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we don't know what it's going to be like with his injury, but I'll tell you, I've never been more scared of a player than Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant is the most electrifying. When Kevin Durant came out in Game 5 in the NBA Finals, it was almost like you felt the city of Toronto and the country of Canada go, well, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so like those three would be the ones who I would just I really, really, really enjoy just how they play the game. And I love to be able to see. And then Ja. J.A.
That guy's fun to watch.
He is just like you don't think it's going to be there, and he did the same thing in the tournament in the NCAA tournament last season.
Yeah,
and you don't think he's going to be. You think he's small and he's this, but he can hoop.
Oh man, he's good. He's good. Like he's going to rise up in the ranks pretty fast. I love to watch. Because of the position I played in basketball, I love the point guard position. I'm a huge fan of Chris Paul. I know not everybody loves him, and some will call him a horrible teammate or whatever. But I love Chris Paul.
School.
Yeah, he's a point guard, and who can score when he has to, but doesn't need to. And I love it. And I love Luka. I think that guy is a fantastic basketball player who thinks the NBA is easier than playing in Europe.
If he's able to do things on the court, that just he's a baby, and he's kind of like, and it's effortless for him. It just so he's kind of like, man, I just play basketball and that's it. And you're like, so my hope is that there's somebody that gets, and maybe it's Zion, that he has like for every Superman there's a Lex Luthor, right? I hope that there's somebody that's able to kind of like challenge him to be better.
Yeah.
But like to me, the league is in good hands because there's guys like Luka, there's guys like J.A. there's guys like Zion Williamson who's shown in a couple of games like he's the real deal.
Yeah.
Like there guys like Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Right. Devin Booker. Like it's fun, and now we have more access to basketball than we ever did before.
Exactly.
Right. So those would be guys who I enjoy. And also let me say, sorry, my favorite Raptor, Fred VanVleet.
Yes, I'll agree with that. I like both him and Siakam. They're fun to watch, and just something about Fred that's just he's a real special treat to watch, like playing basketball. He's you know what, the Raptors, and I'll move on a second, but they seem to always have that guy who isn't their star, but comes up clutch in moments, and you're like, man, I'm so glad he's on our team. And it's usually in the point guard position, and he comes out of nowhere and does well. Like I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I apologize for not remembering the name. Who was the guy who came from San Antonio, Canadian player, and then left?
Corey Joseph.
Like he was like, wow, like he's doing really well. Like he gives Lowry time off the bench. Now, the great thing about Fred VanVleet is that he can play with Lowry and not just replace Lowry, which has been really fun to watch. So the Raptors are a fun team, and I laugh at everybody who said they were going to be done. After I'll be honest, did not think they were going to do as well.
Good, yeah.
And even more so when they were riddled with
injured everybody. And like they're only right now they are a game behind this game back of the second seed. Now it's still early. There's still a lot of basketball to play. But the fact that they are the second seed or close to second seed, and they'll at least be in the top 4 or 5 in the conference by the end of the season, that should shut everybody up. And they have a ring which will never, ever, ever be, you can never deny the fact that they're champions. So,
So I always enjoy talking basketball, but sometimes things go beyond just basketball. And yesterday, I know for me, I was getting ready to go out with my family and drop my kid off at a party, and notification on my phone just drops down. I think it was an Instagram one, and I just swiped down. I saw a picture of Kobe, and it was a post by Gary Vaynerchuk, and I was like, oh, okay, he's talking about Kobe because he knows everybody and seems to be friends with all these guys, and didn't think anything, and drove to where I was going to, and my watch gets a notification, and I see the words, Kobe Bryant dies in helicopter accident. And I remember stopping and looking at my wife. I'm like, Rach, you'll never guess what I just read on my watch. Like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it was an immediate moment of sickness to my stomach and absolutely stunned. And it is one of those moments that they say you'll remember the
where
moment
you were.
where you were, what you were doing, that kind of stuff. So being a Lakers fan, being a Kobe fan, tell me where you were, how you found out, and what goes through your mind.
Okay. So I got to give a little bit of background on this. I was a Laker fan as a kid. Like at our home, my dad, my cousin, my uncle, my cousin's husband. We were talking today about how like we would spend our Christmases eating and then watching the Lakers and hating LeBron James anytime the Lakers were playing him or anybody.
Yeah.
I remember him getting drafted in '96. I remember everyone used to say I look like Eddie Jones. I don't see it, but whatever. And I remember making the choice, like it's either Eddie Jones, because I loved Eddie Jones, Nick Van Exel, and I was like, Kobe's my guy. And that was it. Kobe was my guy. And anybody who knows me well knows like Kobe Bryant has been my favorite basketball player.
Yeah.
I would describe him as he was in our home. Like my father found out that he passed away, my father broke down. My sister found out, she broke down. And I know someone saying, well, you didn't even know him.
Yeah.
Like, then stop listening to this podcast, listen to the next one. And roll with them through the good stuff, championships, MVPs, and I roll with them through the bad stuff. And we can talk a little bit about like the news media and what the news media has been like on both sides of the coin. Roll with them through all that. And even like now in 2020, dealing with the confliction of what that means of being a fan in this era that we're in. All that to say, I'm driving back from the Muskokas. I was doing some work out there and driving back home, and my phone goes off, the notification. And so I do what everyone doesn't do. As I'm driving, clear road, nice, quickly glance at my phone, because I'm trying to find a podcast, and I see Kobe Bryant died. And I'm like, automatically we're thinking, it's a joke. It's a hoax.
Yeah.
Right? Because why would Kobe Bryant be dead?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like he's a robot. He's going to live forever. He's probably like sentient, and he's going to be the Terminator. He's never going to die. So I voice message my boss, and I go, is Kobe Bryant dead?
Yeah.
And I put my phone back down. Sorry. And then I quickly, I kind of slow down a bit because there's no one behind me. And I go on Twitter, and I'm scrolling, looking up, scrolling. Like, if you're a cop and you're listening to this, I'm sorry. And I'm starting to see God, please no, please tell me it's not real, from just different people. And it's not just people who I follow who are friends of mine. Yeah. It's basketball players, it's celebrities, it's writers, it's basketball writers, it's football players, it's Hall of Famers. And everyone's waiting. It's because TMZ breaks it. And TMZ, that's not real news. That is the definition of fake news. And then you're going, I'm just going, it can't be real. It can't be real. It can't be real. And then my boss messages me and he goes, "I'm so sorry." And that's when you're like, no, it can't be.
Yeah.
And then the Woj bomb. And if any of you are listening are NBA fans, Adrian Wojnarowski, I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Woj.
Like anytime he tweets anything about basketball, you know it's real. It's not made up.
Yeah.
And he tweets Kobe Bryant dies in helicopter crash. And then the first thing you're like is Kobe Bryant died. Then you're like, helicopter crash? What the crap?
Yeah.
And I remember I'm driving and I just, like, everything in me just dies. And I just begin to literally sob in the car.
Yeah.
Like, sob in the car.
Yeah.
And my boss messages me. He's like, "I'm checking in on you because," and again, my boss who knows me, he's a friend and he's my boss. He's like, "I know the fandom. I know, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to get home. I'm just trying to get home."
Yeah.
That's it. Another buddy of mine who knows me really well, he calls me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "It can't be real. It can't be real." And we talk a little bit and I hang on the phone. And I'm trying just to drive and like listen to a stupid wrestling podcast because I'm a nerd. And I'm just going over my head. I'm like, his poor kids, his poor wife. And then you find out that his daughter is on that. And you're like, please just. And then you find out that she passes away as well, along with 7 other people.
Yeah.
And you understand this. I recognize that there were 7 other people on there, but the connection to him is just different for me. And then the connection to his daughter,
Yeah.
Who, we watched his life. We watched, he's only a couple years older than we are. We literally watched him become a married father and all these sort of things. And my first thought was, I'm going to go to Chappers and try to buy his Mom and Mentality book.
Yeah.
Because like I should, but they were all sold out already because everybody had the same idea.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking through the mall trying to see if I can find a Kobe t-shirt, and I can't. And I'm sitting on benches and I'm just kind of like dejected. And this guy walks by in a Lower Marion jersey, number 33. And I'm like, I get home and I hug my kids and I look at my wife, and she already knows like it's a mess. And then just trying to process what this all means, because it's beyond basketball. And I don't know him. I've never met the guy before.
Yeah.
But you kind of feel like you watched him grow up and you watched his life.
Yeah.
And so when I say it's been a hard 24 hours, it's been a hard 24 hours because you start thinking about life. You start thinking about your own legacies. You start thinking about your own kids. Both of us, we have daughters.
Yeah.
And what I would do if I was in that position as a father.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to ask, because I heard the news, shocked, and like my in-laws are in town, and so I tell them to pull over their vehicle to, like, we're in the parking lot. I'm like, come here. I'm like, Kobe Bryant, and I told them the story, and they're just like, wow. And the first thing that came to mind when I heard it was, I told my wife, I said, man, like, I've been watching him with his daughter at basketball games, and I know he has 4 of them, but there's this one who loves basketball, and I see him with his arm around her, and he's, they always talk about how he's coaching her on the sideline, and just, he's a part of her life. And he was a part of his, like, I know one of his kids, I think, played volleyball, and he would go and watch. It wasn't just one, but it was the basketball connection. And I was saying, like, man, like, she is going to be heartbroken. And then the next notification is confirming that she was on the helicopter too. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And like you said, we have kids. I have 3 daughters and a son, and you have one of each. And I heard Jason Williams on I think it was First Take today talking.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And man, that it cuts deep. And I posted on social media. I said, this one's tough to handle. Like, this one is difficult. I was sad that Kobe died. I was sad to know that his daughter died too. And I'll say this. I know there's people who always say this. There was just more than Kobe that died on that helicopter. I get it. But I also don't remember every person who dies every single day. I don't know them. And so I can't say, oh man, that impacted me, because I don't know them. I'm sad. It's sad that 3 13-year-olds died.
Yeah.
It's sad. But right now I know about Kobe. I don't know the rest of them. And so that's why we talk about Kobe more than we do the other people. But my question was, for you, because I know thinking about it for myself, but as a parent, what goes through your mind hearing this?
As a parent, I'm thinking what I was thinking yesterday was, if I'm on the helicopter, and if there's time, am I just telling her I love her?
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? Am I unbuckling myself and just like those are one thoughts. And the other hot thought is, man, like, am I doing everything I can to instill all of the good things I know into my 10-year-old daughter, my 8-year-old son?
Yeah.
Um, am I spending more time looking at other people's socials and watching my own favorite shows on Netflix and television than I am spending time with them? Are they going to be the best of me? Like,
Yeah.
if you watch clips of Kobe's daughter Gianna, everybody know it affectionately as Gigi. Like, she had his mannerisms.
Yeah.
Like she was a little him.
Yeah.
And even the way she hooped, like, she could hoop. That's the thing that people don't understand, is like, she could, like, the kid verbally committed to UConn to be a Husky at
Yeah.
15 years old. You know what I mean? Like, the kid had the same step back fadeaway, the same double jab step, and then the wind up in the shot. Everything was the same. And as a parent, I'm like, what parts of me are being emulated by my kids?
Yeah.
Um, you and I, we both have jobs that afford us the ability to travel. And by travel, I'm not saying like we're getting on airplanes and going places, people. Like, I mean, like, we're going across the 401 and the 407, like the 409. Like, we're just traveling Ontario. That's it, right? A couple of spots, but that's mainly it, right? But like, when I get home, am I like just dejected and throw my bag or am I sitting down and am I invested in their lives? Am I taking every moment with them? Am I letting them see the bad parts of me and showing that there is redemption out of them?
Yeah.
Or am I hiding those things so that there's an idea of perfection that that'll be burst at some point when they get older?
Mm-hmm.
So those are things, like, as a parent. And then, for his wife, Vanessa, who's gone through so much already in her life, 37 years old, loses her husband that she knew from when she was, just before 18,
Mm-hmm.
and her 13-year-old daughter. And, they have a 17-year-old, they have a 3-year-old, and I believe they have a just 1-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. And so she does that on her own now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. Like, I sat down and my wife made fun of me. She's like, Adam's over there in the corner crying. I wasn't crying, but it was a weird mood, and I said it, I think, at the beginning of this podcast, that it, for me, it was one of these things that hit me harder than
Anything. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
any other celebrity that passed away,
Mhm.
who I was like, oh man, I can't believe,
Yeah.
are you serious? Like, I think the only shock I can compare it to when it comes to a celebrity dying, and there's no way this is even close to that connection for me, but was, and I was younger, was when Princess Diana
Yeah.
died. I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
the news, and I was like, Mom, I'm like, do you know who just died? And like, I remember being so shocked, and that was like I think my first exposure to
Mhm.
life outside of mine, and somebody dying that shouldn't have died.
Yeah.
And remember, I know in my own life, I've been around a lot of deaths. I've been around too many funerals that I would like to admit, and it hurts. And so to feel the way I felt yesterday was tough. But I remember I was sitting down, and I was thinking, like you said, like, am I being a good dad?
Yeah.
I, and I know we can talk about, people will talk about this, and you alluded to it with the media, and oh, Kobe did this when he was, early in his career, and think about the girl he did that to. And I get that. And there is a part of that hurts, and it's not saying that what he did is excused now, but we appreciate the maturity that took place
Yeah.
from that moment.
Yes.
It
And like,
doesn't say it didn't happen,
and you can't, like, the idea of legacy is that you have to take into account the entire picture.
Yes.
Right? You can't push things aside, and it would be wrong of us. And I would dare say he would say it would be wrong of us to just only talk about these parts, because then, like let's not just look at the scandal. Let's look at him as a teammate in 2000, in 1999 to 1994, and then the friction that's happening on the team as he's becoming an alpha dog.
Yeah.
He no longer wants to be 1A and 1B. It's not like on the Bulls where Michael Jordan was the alpha. Yeah. Scottie Pippen was the sidekick, and Scottie was fine with that.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like that. It was Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal coming to their powers at the exact same time, and them being horrible to each other, making it painful for everybody else. Yeah. Shaq gets traded, Kobe stays, Phil Jackson leaves, and then he is a horrendous teammate to people. Horrendous. We can't forget that. And he's just, poor Smush Parker.
Yeah. Said he was the worst player ever.
Right? Like, you're like, what's Smush Parker feeling right now?
Yeah.
Like, right? So there's those things. There's his use of negative slurs in 2011 to a referee. There are things that he did, and then you can't not mention Colorado. You cannot not mention that he was tried for sexual assault. You can't not.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you can do is say, in light of what he did, he sat across from his accuser. He heard what was said about him. Yeah. There was a disconnect in terms of what the story was, but there was a settlement, which means that there was enough stuff to say that, like, I might not have been in the fire, but there was enough smoke.
Yeah.
Right. And then we were able to see him atone for that and recognize that was always going to be a part of his legacy. Mm-hmm. Yep. So he did everything that he could to not push that away, but to own it and move forward.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I was thinking about this afternoon. It's a different day and age. If that happens in 2020, he's kicked out the team. Yeah. He's no longer playing. He's a pariah. That's it. He's playing in Greece somewhere. That's the end of the story. That's it. In 2003, 2004, and he's not the only athlete.
Yeah.
He's not the only celebrity that this is happening to at the time, and we're seeing it happening. It's coming up more so, right?
Yep.
But in that day and age, public redemption was possible if he won.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he won.
Yeah.
And so that clouds the story, but that's a part of his legacy.
Yeah.
And what I've been thinking about in terms of that part of his story is the growth that we saw, and that he's one of the first celebrities that we were able to actually see their life in front of us in ugly, gross detail.
Yeah.
And how he was able to say, like, this is not going to be the defining moment of my life.
Yeah. And that part that you say that is crucial. Like, I'm one of those people, and part of it's our faith, but part of it is just, I understand that we do get second chances. The famous line people say is, don't judge me on my past. And I'm cool with that, but your past can't still be your present. Right? Because I know people who are like, don't base what you know about me on what I've done. I'm like, I won't if you'll stop doing it. At some point you have to quit doing that, right?
Yeah.
Like, where's the maturity? And I think and maybe it was fear, maybe it was, and there's the comment of, like he said, like, going through that, and he alluded to God, Kobe Bryant did, where he talks about, like, it's, you don't go through that and don't kind of experience how real God is. Mm-hmm. And sure, people might not like to hear that, because, like, oh, you're telling me that God wanted that to happen? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that Kobe Bryant understood what was wrong. And sure, he got away with it because he's a celebrity, maybe, possibly, very good chance. But he didn't repeat the pattern.
Yeah.
There was the change that took place. And as a horrible teammate, if you say that now, but what you just heard from everybody yesterday, you're like, no, Kobe was not a bad teammate.
And he won 2 championships. Remember that. He won 2 championships in the midst of being called a bad teammate, in the midst, and he was on a podcast January 9th, All the Smoke. I don't recommend people listening to it. It's kind of not safe for work. Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, it's a basketball podcast. And he was talking about, and they were asking him, it's so weird. They were asking like, what, if you could change anything about your perception about you, what would you say? And this came out January 9th. He's like, people call me selfish all the time, but you can't be selfish and win rings.
Yeah.
You can't be selfish and win rings. And it's true. Like there needs to be a little bit of giving of yourself. And he also said, I need to learn how to lead as me. And I didn't know how to do that before. And when Powell came and everybody else, I learned how to lead like me and open myself up as I do. And the result of that was 3 trips to the finals and 2 championships.
Yeah.
And so like, there's certain things that you and we've done. There's certain things that people will remember us for, unfortunately, for our past. Yep. I'm sure there's people who might be listening to this and know me, and all they remember of me is something I did. There's probably people who I work with who only remember the bad things I've done. Yeah. It's my responsibility to not say I'm going to repeat these patterns. It's my responsibility to also say I'm not going to live according to my past, but I'm going to learn from it and chart a new path for myself. Mm-hmm. And if people want to see me that way, that's fine. So today I'm walking around and I'm wearing my Kobe Bryant jersey. It's faded now. You know, it's tattered, but like it's the only jersey I have from those days that I kept from that, like the throwback jersey time, because he was my guy. And in my head, I'm going, there's probably somebody out there. There's probably a young man or young woman who's going like, how dare you wear his jersey? And I'm going like, because he's not the same person.
Exactly.
But I also recognize that they have the right to find conflict in what I'm wearing.
For sure.
So it's both and it's not either or. Like you're allowed to have conflict of it. And we've seen people in the media. We have a friend of ours who is very, very, very adamant. Like, this is not the time. We shouldn't be talking about this. And the reality is there is never a good or bad time to talk about this stuff. It's a part of his story.
For sure.
He knew that.
Yeah.
He was aware of it. But he didn't say like, this is going to be the defining moment of my life. He allowed people to judge him on that forever. And he also allowed people to see him differently too.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson, like, I mean, not to be like leadership-y, but that's a lesson for us in terms of how we respond to our failures.
Yeah.
Do we live there? Do we repeat them? Or do we say, I'm going to do everything in my power to not fall into the same traps again, whatever those are. And I'm going to chart a new course.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like it's one of those things that, you know, him changing doesn't take away past hurts from people.
Yes. Yeah. That's a really good way of putting it.
Right. It doesn't take that away. That person was hurt and lives with that forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's nothing that says, you know, excuse me, miss, he just passed away. Get over it now. Right. That's not the case.
Yeah.
And there's people who are connected to it. And there are people who have been victims in other areas who feel pain because she felt pain.
Yeah.
And so they're upset still because it's real to them. And we can't just dismiss somebody's pain. And I get that. But you also have to understand that not everybody understands that.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know, I don't understand what it's like for a female to go through that. I never want it to happen to my girls.
Facts.
Never want it to happen to any person that I know, but I don't know it personally. And I'm a firm believer that things don't matter to us as much until it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the reality, right? And so, you know, I'm thankful that from all accounts he learned, you know.
And we see that with his daughter. We see that with how he has invested his life into, he had invested, oh my gosh, past tense, into women's basketball and became an advocate. And that's like, you're able to see the learning. You're willing to sit down with people and hear them.
Yeah.
Hear their anger and learn from it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're a better person or a worse person, but you're willing to at least put your feet to the fire and go like, yep.
Yeah.
And so like I watched him sitting with you know, the clip that's been going around on social media is him sitting with Gigi, and he's explaining basketball to her, and she has this gigantic smile on her face, and she's responding to him. And I'm like, you don't get there with your daughter if you haven't learned how to do that as a man first.
Yeah.
And a tone. And it might, and there's probably somebody who's listening and saying like, oh, there's no justification here. Like I recognize, like as I was driving, I was thinking about like a social media post. I haven't been on social media a lot just for my own personal sanity, but I knew I wanted to say something because I know how much his basketball playing and his, like, as a fan I was.
Yeah.
And one of the words I said in my post was something like, you've meant a lot of things to me over your 20-year career. And one of the words I had was conflicted.
Yeah.
Because this is a part of it.
Yep.
I've been conflicted being like, should I say he's better than LeBron? Should I say he's better than Jordan? Right?
Yeah.
Even though statistically he's not.
Yeah.
Right? He just was a bigger presence than both of them, I would say.
Yeah.
But I'm also conflicted on this stuff too. And I think we're not comfortable living in those gray moments of tension. We don't do comfort that way.
Yeah.
It's got to be boom, 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 boom. And really, life is the murky middle. And if anybody lived the murky middle and put a voice to it, it was Kobe Bean Bryant. Yeah. You really either loved him,
yeah,
or you hated him. I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast. Bill Simmons and Chris Ryan from The Ringer, they recorded a quick podcast like right when they found the news. And they both talked about how much they, as fans, hated him.
Yeah.
But like they could not respect him as a basketball player.
Yeah.
And there's you and I, we were talking about how much we didn't like Luke Walton and how much we wanted him traded.
I was going to bring him up before.
Right? How much we didn't like him.
You're like Pat Riley, and I'm like Luke Walton.
Luke Walton, I hate Luke Walton. He was the worst. Was a horrible coach as well. But like, right, like as a basketball player, we appreciated who he was as a humanitarian, as an expander to the game, bringing it to China and Europe, and people respecting him all over the world.
Yeah.
We know the whole person.
Yes.
We respect what the person was becoming.
Yeah.
And I think that's the sad part, is that we didn't get to see the next act. It was just starting. We were actually able to see the fulfillment or the culmination of the redemption of him and the learning of what that meant. We don't get to see that. And then to add to that, Gigi and these two other young girls who play on her team, we don't get to see Gigi play at UConn. We don't get to see her get drafted by the LA Sparks and play in the same stadium, same arena that her dad played in, and dream about these moments where Kobe's this old, gray-haired, gray-bearded guy watching his daughter play and still coaching her. We don't get to see those moments. As a parent, trying to go back to the parent thing, is like, I want to make sure that I'm thinking about every moment that I can to invest.
Yeah.
And we have jobs where we get to invest in other people's families. We get to invest in students, young adults, through communicating of the gospel. I was reminded yesterday, like, it's great to be able to facilitate moments for other people, but I want to make sure that I'm facilitating moments for my kids, for my family.
Yeah.
And so, like, as like just while we just started, LeBron just came out. I haven't read it yet, but LeBron came out with his statement. Okay. And so weird that like LeBron broke his record the night before, and and the right after the game, Kobe Bryant called LeBron on the phone, and all the Lakers were able to hear it on the conversation. And so you can imagine what other people are feeling. We don't even know the dude.
Yeah,
we don't even know him. All we knew is that he hooped like nobody else. He was a champion. He, like, all these sort of things. Mm-hmm. And these are guys who were like in the fraternity.
Yeah,
they went to Beijing. They went to London together. All this sort of stuff. Like, if we're feeling it and we're just fans, like these dudes.
Yeah.
Memorials, All-Star Game, Hall of Fame was this year, and he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's a lot of just feelings.
Yeah.
A lot of feelings. And I'm not ashamed to say, like, I cried, and I've cried just because there's just so many, just daughter and father. I'm crying less for the basketball player and more for the dad, who was literally only 2 years older than me.
Yeah. Yeah. As you mentioned, LeBron just posted, and I'm gonna read it just, as it comes up here. It was just about an hour ago, and it said, I'm not ready, but here I go. Man, I'm sitting here trying to write something for this post, but every time I try, I begin crying again, just thinking about you, niece Gigi, and the friendship, bond, brotherhood we had. I literally just heard your voice Sunday morning before I left Philly to head back to LA. Didn't think for one bit in a million years that that would be the last conversation we'd have. I'm heartbroken and devastated, my brother. Man, I love you, big bro. My heart goes to Vanessa and the kids. I promise you I'll continue your legacy, man. You mean so much to us all here, especially Laker Nation. And it's my responsibility to put this on my back and keep it going. Please give me the strength from the heavens above and watch over me. I got us here. There's so much more I want to say, but just can't right now because I can't get through it. Until we meet again, my brother. Hashtag Mamba for life, and then hashtag Gigi for life. Yeah, classy. And you know, LeBron writes that, and we know yesterday Dwayne Wade comes out with that big video, which was, man, that was moving. And you know, and we won't take too much longer tonight, but you know, you said one thing, and I have a question I want to ask in a second, but before I go there, you know, we say, man, Kobe was just getting started, you know, just doing his thing, and I wish I could see where that life is going to go, but there was a video that came out of when he was talking with Jimmy Kimmel about his daughter.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always go places and people say, Kobe, you got to have a son. You got to have a son. You know, like, you got to keep the name alive. And she's like, whoa, I got this.
Yeah, I got this. Yeah.
And I hear that, and it plays over my head, and I'm like, man, I wanted to see where her life went.
Yeah. And
you
that's,
know, like,
yeah.
Kobe, like, yeah, cool, mentoring, all those things, and it would have been great. And I think his brand would have become even bigger. But man, I would have loved, like you said, to hear her get drafted, you know, into WNBA, or who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, but yeah.
You know what I mean? And that conversation was just being had, I think, by him just not that long ago. And
yeah, it was. Yeah.
And so to think about her life and the other girls too, but speaking specifically of Kobe and his daughter, you know, I would have loved to have seen, you know, Mamba mentality duplicated
2.0.
in
Yeah.
his daughter, you know, and so it's sad. But let me ask you this question before we close up. In my belief, Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. In mine, right?
Yep, I understand that. I can appreciate that.
I
mean, one by rings is Bill Russell, but sure.
Yes.
6 rings is more than 10 rings.
Yes. It just, in my opinion.
Yep.
I also think, you know, I'm one of those guys who say, I actually think because of basketball eras and the changing of basketball, I actually see Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron being 3 of the greatest in their respective times. Kobe came in at the end of Jordan and bridged the gap for LeBron. I think LeBron's a beast. You know, and you know, anybody who says, you know, I hate LeBron, it's because he's not on your team, and that's why. Let's just be honest, right?
Big facts.
It's different. I very much don't like James Harden and don't want him on my team, but that's besides the point. You know,
we could do a whole
other podcast on traveling,
on traveling and James Harden, and just like the pain that comes. Anyhow, I'm so excited. We'll be here forever.
Well, being the greatest in that sense, do you think? And LeBron has a really good brand, and he does some pretty incredible things. Is Kobe the greatest basketball person? Game and after?
Like, okay, so there's a couple, like, I don't want to take too long because don't want to take too long, but like there's a couple of different factors to that. One, no one's gonna win an Oscar.
Yeah.
You know, like an Oscar and an Emmy. People need to remember that. An Oscar and an Emmy, you know, publishing kids' books, kids' podcasts, that sort of stuff. Like, no one's gonna do that. I think that Jordan was larger than life, but Jordan really didn't care.
Yes.
Jordan's like, I'm Michael Jordan. Republicans sell shoes. Republicans buy shoes, that sort of thing. Jordan was really about just kind of like dominating people. Like, you remember like how like at his Hall of Fame thing, he brought the guy who made it to the basketball team before him. Like he was a very, very, very spiteful individual.
It was one of the worst Hall of Fame speeches of all time. Ever.
Like, the crying Jordan face is like, is good as a result of that. Like, that's the only good thing that came out of that speech. LeBron with his I Promise School.
Yeah.
I think that I would say this. My opinion, I think he is the most influential basketball person.
Yes.
Because Jordan didn't really influence people outside of the game, besides shoes, really.
Yeah.
Like, he's a horrible GM, horrible owner.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, You do everything you can to keep Kemba Walker. That's all I'm saying. Right? Whereas Kobe, and just think about what Kobe went through to get there. In 2003, he is on trial and flying back and forth to games during pre-trial. He loses all of his endorsements besides Nike.
Yeah.
In 2006, he is so hated by the media,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't help his case that an MVP that should have gone to him, if you look at it statistically, went to Steve Nash. Steve Nash had an amazing season, but that should have gone, scoring title, everything else, it should have gone to Kobe Bryant, but the media hated him.
Yeah.
14 years later, he is revered by everyone.
Yeah.
He is building brands. He is writing scripts. He is coaching. He has created a basketball academy. He is coaching AU basketball, and he is more revered than anyone else outside of maybe LeBron James. No, he's actually more revered than LeBron James because of how LeBron James speaks of him.
Yes.
Nobody revered Jordan that way. Nobody revered Jordan outside of like he was a killer on the court. You didn't want to mess with him. Nobody. Jordan was like this rarefied, like mythological Zeus.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, if you're looking from the area of mythology, was Zeus on Earth.
Yeah.
Flawed, corrupted, broken, and yet still tangible enough that you were able to say, like, I want to be like him, which is why every basketball player I would have thought would have been influenced by Jordan. No, they were all influenced by Kobe Bryant.
Mm.
And so I think that there's going to be a generation, our kids, who are going to be influenced by LeBron. LeBron's going to be their guy. Steph Curry's going to be their guy.
Yeah.
But he was your guy's guy.
Yeah.
And so that's the greatness of him.
Yeah.
That, like, and you saw the tweets, like, every time you're throwing a paper in the garbage can, Kobe, like, that's, you're not saying LeBron, you're Kobe, like, that's just what it is. Like, you're not passing the ball, you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And so I love what you said about the eras. I think that, like, Kobe was the last of the old school. I don't want to be your friend. I'm not going to join up with you. I'm going to kill you and destroy you.
Yeah.
But then you saw, once he was done, he's like, let's be friends. I'll mentor you. I'll teach you everything I know. And I think that that is, that's going to be the main thing that we remember, is how it ended and where it was going.
Yeah.
That it's not like, you know, a weird thing like Aaron Hernandez, where like, you're like, what? And then it's over and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, we got to see the next side.
Yeah.
And we got to see him moving towards something that was going to be great, because he would not let it not be great.
Yeah.
The same way how he was going to shoot 50 times and score 60 points, he was going to shoot in the movies and shoot in radio and shoot. He was going to do that until he hit every basket.
Yeah. The way, and I agree, like, I think LeBron has an incredible influence in and out of basketball. The way I like to see it is, or like to say it, I guess, is LeBron will own a basketball team. Kobe will mentor one, right? And it's not that LeBron can't. It's just, I think he is very business and brand and all those things, and that's his team that's doing that for him too, and that's awesome. They have not marketed, in my opinion, Kobe the way they marketed Jordan and LeBron.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Jordan. Jordan was marketed really well.
He was the first of his kind.
Yes, and it took off, and his shoes became legendary. But nobody has said since his basketball days, man, I really want to live Jordan's life now.
Yeah.
Other than financially.
Yeah.
Right?
His baggy jeans and really, really, really bad clothing. Versus
baggy but high jeans.
Oh man, like, check your man. Yes. Check your man.
So I that's the way I see it. Like, I see LeBron owning a team, right? And I saw Kobe headed down the direction where I will mentor the entire NBA.
He was going to be Jerry West.
Yes.
And those of you who are basketball fans, you understand that he was going to be Jerry West was a horrible coach. He tried it. He was a horrible coach. But like, everybody wanted, he was an executive on the Lakers. He won. He was an executive on Golden State. He won. He's an executive on the LA Clippers. And it makes me so sad, because they're probably at some point going to win. And I don't know what I'm going to do with myself when that happens. Yeah. But like, he's going to be Jerry West. That was who he was going to be. He was going to be the next guy who is going to be able to sit in an office and go like, just bring me that guy. Yeah. Jerry West saw this kid playing Lower Merion in Philadelphia, and he was willing to stake his life and trade away Vladdy Divac to the Charlotte Hornets, who was a fan favorite, for this kid, this 17-year-old, who became a starter in an All-Star game his second year when he wasn't even starting on his basketball team.
Yeah.
And he's willing to mentor him all the way to 3 championships, keep him while letting go of the funnest player in basketball history in Shaquille O'Neal. There's nobody more fun than him, and mentor him to 2 other championships.
Yeah.
That's what Kobe was doing with Trae Young, with Jason Tatum, with Devin Booker, with LeBron himself, with all that's what he was doing. He was becoming the logo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is a shame that if it happens, it'll happen in light of his death, not because of his life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too. A lot of our opinions today, I don't mean just you and I, but people in general, the opinions of his greatness will be sometimes over exaggerated.
Yep.
Because of the sadness and pain.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And our feeling of what we hoped he would have become.
Yeah.
But as much as we might over exaggerate what he could have become, we know whatever it was going to be great.
Yep.
And it is sad that it is a life gone at such a young age. And again, we know more people that were on that flight that was not just Kobe and his daughter. There were more people who have family, who have friends,
have futures and everything.
There were dreams in their lives too. And it's sad that this podcast and that every second or sometimes every post on social media is a picture of Kobe or his daughter, or, it's sad that that's what we have to talk about and to experience in this time. It's crazy. But one of the things that I do on GillyTalks, Chris, is I ask this one question, and usually we ask people to share their story, and this is part of your story and part of who you are. But one of the questions I always ask at the end, because it's about our life and our stories and the impact and the things that we learn. And we talked about Kobe learning along the way and growing. So my question to you, if you could go back to, high school Chris Chase, right?
Yeah.
Where, ladies loved him,
I wish.
Where Bow Wow was your favorite rapper.
I hate you so much.
No, but go back to high school if you could, and you now, and what you've experienced in life, and what you now know. What would you go back to high school Chris Chase and tell him about life?
I would say, 1, your canines are going to grow in. Don't worry about it. Because there was a time where, I didn't think my canines were ever going to grow in. But here they are. I would tell that teenage Chris Chase, I would tell him, you're going to learn the hard way, bud. You're going to learn the hard way. But the lessons are going to fuel you to do things that you never thought you could do. Because the thing you want to tell them is you would almost kind of want Back to the Future it, like with the almanac, and tell them, don't, whatever you do, don't date that person, or whatever you do, don't go in that wherever, don't grab thing. But no, just know that every dumb thing that you do is going to give you the heart and mind that allows you to do some really cool things.
Yeah.
And the things that I've been able and afforded to do, small unknown things, and some things that are known to friends but not known to anybody if I walk through a Walmart. They've been really exciting. And so I would just tell them, 1, your canines are going to grow in, and 2, you're going to learn the hard way, but those lessons are good. So don't get upset about the lessons. Don't get upset about the lessons. Just take them in, drink them in, sit on them, and then get ready to apply them. Get ready to apply them one day. Also, I would tell him, there's going to be a thing called the internet. If you can invest in it and get money from your parents, do it. Because then you'll be a millionaire and not be driving a Honda Civic.
Absolutely. No, totally. I love that, learning, and putting those things into practice. Such a crucial thing about this life that we live, and life is lessons.
Yeah, it
It
is.
gives you lessons, and as a basketball quote would be, you reach, I teach. um
Facts.
and in life,
Yeah,
you're going to try and do one thing, life's going to teach you something else.
facts. Always.
And
Always.
so I think that's no, that's great. And Chris, I just really appreciate you, and I appreciate you just sharing a personal part of your life and your story. And it's basketball. We love sports. We love the game of basketball. But the reality is, life comes at you full speed, and
Facts.
we didn't expect yesterday the news that we heard. But what we can do with yesterday is learn for today.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like you talked about with your kids, you know, let's stop asking, am I being a good enough parent? And let's just start being,
Be. Yeah.
being a good parent, being a good person, and living life to the fullest. And, we know that from Kobe saying that stuff. And so I appreciate you and
Same.
doing, and I'm thankful that we stay connected, and that we're doing, a lot of the similar things in
Mhm.
life. And so I'm happy to call you friend,
Same.
and to be able to do this. So thanks so much for joining us on GillyTalks.
And people need you. People, your listeners need to know. Like Adam could hoop. And he can still shoot now. But
Yeah.
like when we were teenagers, like Adam could hoop. And so like this is not like conjecture. This is not hyperbole.
Yeah.
Like as streets would say, Adam was nice.
Well, I
Adam was
appreciate it.
nice. And
I
so you
appreciate
need to know that. Like that's not just a line. And it pains me because I hate giving compliments to people. I hate that sort of stuff, but it's not coming towards me. But Adam was nice with it. And so I love you. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate that that we've been able to do life together like this for as long as we have, and we still somewhat get along. It's always a good thing.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, that is another episode of GillyTalks. Again, we want to thank our guest, Chris Chase, and just so thankful to have him on our episode. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Maybe it was a little bit longer for you, and that's cool. But I hope that even if you don't like sports, you can appreciate the discussion about life and the things that we can learn from it, but also just dealing with the reality that sometimes life hits harder than we want it to hit. But the great thing is that with friends, with endurance, with persistence, we can hit back even harder. And so I'm just thankful for you listeners, and hopefully we'll have another podcast out to you very soon, and give you some more stories that you can hear, but also maybe someday have a chance to share your story. Thank you again for another episode. Chris, thank you so much. And we will hopefully talk to you again, and hopefully talk to you, the listeners, again soon. Thank you so much.